So I welcome all the farmers, I welcome everyone. And I also want to say that by God's grace, this meeting is streamed live on YouTube. So I also welcome everyone on YouTube. Welcome to today's session. All right, without much ado, I'm going to go ahead to introduce GSAI once again to us. So GSAI is Growth for Sustainable Agriculture Initiative. And this is a dynamic non-governmental organization that is registered in Nigeria. And Growth for Sustainable Agricultural Initiative is committed to catalyzing positive change in the agricultural landscape. And I'm very, very sure that that's one of the reasons why we are having this training, for that positive change. So at the forefront of sustainable development, GSAI empowers smallholder farmers and various agricultural stakeholders to embrace environmentally responsible practices, fostering food security and promoting resilience in the face of changing global dynamics. GSAI stands as a beacon of positive change, working tirelessly to elevate the agricultural sector in Nigeria and contribute to the broader vision of a sustainable and prosperous Africa. GSI, once again, is poised to make a lasting impact on the lives of farmers and the agricultural landscape in the region. And we also know that an investment in knowledge is one of the best investments we can have. And this is one of the goals of GSI, to make a lasting impact in the lives of farmers. So one other reason why we're having this training is because we are planning and we are working towards the 2025 World Food Safety Day commemoration project. And you might be wondering, what's the project all about? Well, I'm going to let you know today. So the 2025 World Food Safety Commemoration Day project is a capacity development project on food safety and rural farmers in Nigeria. This is a strategic initiative by the Growth for Sustainable Agricultural Initiative to tackle the pressing issue of food safety in Nigeria and productively commemorate World Food Safety Day 2025. This program is scheduled to commence in April 2025. This 2-month hybrid project will train 500 farmer cooperative leaders from all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The program aims to equip these leaders with comprehensive knowledge of food safety standards, practical skills, and the tools to cascade this knowledge through a step-down training to over 100,000 cooperative members nationwide. This is seriously a huge project. So the key projects components, what are the key project components of this 2025 World Food Safety Day projects? The key project components are: 1, 8 weeks virtual training on farm food safety compliance. And that's what we are. That's one of the reasons why we are still here today. 8 weeks virtual training. 2, Food Safety Innovation Challenge. Food Safety Innovation Challenge. And 3, Nigerian Farmers Town Hall Summit in Abuja, Nigeria. Please, in the comment section, can you put your hands together for the GSAI CEO, the executive, and all the team members for putting together these very, very wonderful projects? Please put your hands together for them, as we also put our hands together for the speakers that spoke in other days. All right, without much ado, I'm going to go ahead to introduce our speaker for today. So, while reading the bio and everything, the introduction for today, we can agree that this is such a huge project that can only be taken by someone that is an expert in the field. And today we are privileged to have an expert with us. We are privileged to have Professor Lucius Bamayi. So Professor Lucius Bamayi is an Assistant Director, Research at the Institute of Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. So put your hands together once again, as I'm going to invite our prof to take us once again on this capacity training, a training that is going to help our hearts, help our minds, and help us as farmers to plant more and help Nigeria to grow. So put your hands together, as I'm going to yield the floor now to our prof. Prof, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. I hope Victor is going to share the slides with our viewers.
Okay, all right, sir. Sir Victor, please.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So the slide.
Okay, the topic I want to talk on is integrated pest and disease management and food security. By the way, I want to sincerely thank you for this initiative and the wisdom to impact on our farmers, the skills in improving agriculture. We have been desiring to see youths getting involved in things like this, so it's quite a good thing that you are doing. As you can see, my affiliation is Department of Crop Protection, Institute for Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Nigeria. My contacts are there. I'm supposed to focus on principles of integrated pest management and its role in food safety, safe use of pesticides and alternative pest control methods, and then record keeping and monitoring for pest control. Now, integrated pest management means an approach to pest control that combines different methods like biological, cultural, and alternatives to chemical control with judicious use of pesticides. So integrated pest management actually deals with different types of management strategies in a combined nature. And the objective is to minimize pest impact while reducing the risks to humans, non-target organisms, and then preserving the quality of the environment. So integrated means a broad interdisciplinary approach using scientific principles of plant protection to bring together a variety of management tactics into an overall strategy. So there are three things that are embedded in IPM. The management of the pests, where you bring them to a very minimal level where they are not causing any economic damage. And then reducing the risks to humans, non-target organisms, and then preserving the environment. You only use pesticides when it becomes very, very necessary. So IPM strives for maximum use of naturally occurring control practices in the pest environment, like the weather, maybe microorganisms that can cause disease to insect pests, predators, and parasites. And IPM uses current comprehensive information on the life cycle of the pest and then their interaction with the environment. So in other words, you try to exploit the biology of the insect, the pest in question. You understand its biology. What are the environmental factors that work against its increase in population so that you exploit that use in managing that pest. So the information about the life cycle and the environment, the pest and its interaction with the environment is used to manage the pest damage by most economical means and with the least possible hazard to people, property, and the environment. So whatever IPM strategy you are employing, it should be such that it reduces the pest activity, it is economical, it does not pose hazard to humans, to property, to other animals, and then the environment. IPM takes advantage of all appropriate pest management options, including the judicious use of pesticides. So when we talk of IPM, it does not exclude the use of pesticides, but the pesticides be used judiciously. So this pesticide should never be applied according to a preset schedule or a spray calendar. For instance, you've heard of people saying if you plant cowpea, when the cowpea is 3 weeks old, you should apply the first dose of the pesticide. Now, what that means is whether there are pests or not, at 3 weeks, you are supposed to apply the pesticide. Now, it is not so in IPM. You only use it when it becomes exclusively necessary. So that's what IPM does. So IPM attempts to satisfy economic, environmental, and social objectives to provide cost-effective pest control that minimizes adverse impacts on human health or the quality of the environmental resources. So in IPM, you set a threshold to decide when it is time to apply a control measure. You identify the pest in the most specific terms possible and learn the biology of the pest, its habits, the life cycle, what is it that it likes, what is it that it doesn't like. So you need a comprehensive knowledge of the pest. So you take steps to exclude the pest from the area if it is possible. If it is not possible, then you manage it to a very minimal level. So you try to remove the food that the pest feeds on, and water, and then shelter. In other words, don't allow the food for the pest or water or shelter to be available so that the pest gets frustrated and it moves away. And then you need to determine the travel pattern of the pest and find its home base. Where is it originating from? And then you identify the control options that are available before you take an action. Now, the core features of IPM are 3. Proactive measures. In other words, you focus on prevention rather than reaction. You know, there's a popular adage that says prevention is better than cure. So you prevent the pest from getting to your crop. That is, you are being proactive. And then there has to be a data-driven approach where you rely on monitoring and accurate pest identification. You want to monitor to be sure that, yes, the pest is there and it is present in a kind of population that can be inimical to your crop. So you need that data. And then you need to identify the pest very well before you can embark on any control measure. And then the last core feature of IPM is sustainable practices, where you combine biological, cultural, mechanical, and chemical tools. What are the objectives of pest management? The first one is to maintain pest levels below economically damaging levels while minimizing harmful effects of pest control on human health and then the environment. To reduce the pest status below economic injury level. Now, what that means is the pest may be there, but it is not causing any significant damage that will cause any economic loss. So you maintain it below that economic injury level. Then you manage the pest by preventing feeding, multiplication, and dispersal. Of course, if the pest does not multiply, you know definitely that it cannot increase, its population cannot increase. And then you use eco-friendly methods of control which will maintain quality of the environment. And then you make maximum use of natural mortality factors. And then you apply control measures only when they are needed. Importance of integrated pest management in the food industry. The food industry mission is to deliver safe, high-quality products to consumers. So the pest, because the pest can contaminate the food products, causing health hazards. It can lead to regulatory non-compliance and penalties. You know, when your products from the company are found to be littered with pests, it becomes a problem and it can attract a penalty. Of course, it can damage the facility, which will result in financial losses. For instance, if you have pests like rodents, rats, the rodents will destroy the storage structure. They will destroy even the frames of your house or your store, and then they will destroy the produce itself. And then they will diminish consumer trust and brand reputation. You know, when your product is being rejected because it contains contaminations of insect frass or living live insects, your customers will lose trust in you, and therefore your product will not have a good reputation. So implementing IPM ensures compliance with stringent food safety standards while fostering a sustainable and ethical approach to pest management. So this is how important IPM is. What are the requirements for successful pest management program? Correct identification of the insect pests is very, very important for any successful IPM program. The life history and behavior of the pest is important. You need to know its life history. You need to know its behavior. What time does it come out? What is the nature of damage that it causes? Does it have natural enemies? If it has natural enemies, then you use that against the pest. What are the weather factors that affect the pest population? Whether they reduce the pest population or they increase the pest population. So if you understand those weather factors and then the natural enemies of the pest, you can use them to manage the pest. Then you also need an ability to forecast and predict the pest outbreak. For instance, if you have known the weather factors that encourage a growth or an increase in the pest population, then when you see those weather factors prevailing, then you should have it at the back of your mind that there is a possibility of a pest outbreak, and therefore you set up machineries and prepare very well to be able to attack the pest. Then you find out the economic threshold level for each pest in a crop. Economic threshold level means at what point, what is the population of the pest that when you see it on your field or your crop, that you will imagine that you need to apply a control method. It is not wise just by mere seeing one pest on your crop, then you go and start applying pesticides. No, it will not be economical. So a knowledge of the biology of the pest, its damage capability will help you to determine the economic threshold level and when to apply a control measure. And the need and timing of control measures, you need to take a decision when should you apply that control measure. And then if control is very necessary, then you should select a suitable method of control. And then you need to carry out an analysis of the cost, benefit risk of each control measure. In other words, the control measure that you have selected, how effective it is. If it is very effective but detrimental to humans, then you should drop that. If it is effective, safe for humans, but detrimental to the environment, you should also drop that. So you should find a control measure that is effective in controlling the pest, that is harmless to humans and harmless to the environment. Now, This picture is just trying to present the methods or the steps involved in integrated pest management. First of all, you need to inspect to monitor the presence of the pest. And then you need to identify the pest correctly. When you have identified it, you need to monitor and know its behavior. What is the pattern of population increase? Then you decide on what action to take to be able to combat the pest that you have identified. So the control measure is the action you are taking. And after you have applied a control measure, you need to evaluate that control measure that you have effected. Is it effective? Are there errors? What is it that you need to correct? What is it that you need to avoid next time? So the key principles of integrated pest management includes prevention. You eliminate conditions that attract the pest. Make the conditions so unconducive for the pest to thrive. Then monitoring, which involves regular inspection to detect the pest activity early enough. Identification, properly identify the pest to determine the most effective control measures. And then the threshold levels is to establish acceptable pest levels to guide interventions, to know when to apply an intervention. And then integrated tactics means use a combination of methods to address the pest issues. After all, that is what integrated pest management is all about, to combine different methods to get a suitable result. And then you need to continuously assess the effectiveness of the control method that you have applied. Is it effective? Are there problems? All that needs to be identified. What are the components of an effective IPM program? We've talked about monitoring and inspection. Where we say regular inspection and monitoring are the foundation of IPM. And in monitoring, you can use traps and base stations to monitor pest activity and even their population. Keep detailed records of the inspections that you have carried out over time to see whether the pest population is increasing or not. And then accurate identification of the pest is essential for targeted control. For example, if you have a problem with rodents, then recognize the species of the rodent that is causing the problem for you. If, however, it is an insect, you differentiate between the stored product pest and field pest. Then you come up with your prevention strategies. Prevention is usually the most cost-effective approach in integrated pest management, and it includes sanitation, maintaining cleanliness to remove food and water sources for the pest. Of course, the pest is coming to look for food, so keep your environment clean, very neat, so that the pest, when it comes and find a neat environment without any food droppings around, it will starve to death. Maintain your store or your facility so that if there are cracks, you seal those cracks. If there are leakages, you fix them. And then you install a pest-proof doors so that there are no openings available for the pests to get in. When it comes to storage of harvested produce, you should store them in airtight containers so that there will be no oxygen available within the container, and the pests will die as a result of the lack of oxygen. Then for control methods, when prevention is not enough, then you need to employ IPM. First of all, you have biological control, where you can introduce natural enemies of the pest, whether they are predators or they are parasites. Then you also have mechanical control, where you use traps to catch them, or physical barriers that will stop them from gaining access to the facility. Or you use heat treatment to kill the pest, meanwhile preserving your crops. Then, of course, the last option is chemical control, where you apply the pesticide responsibly, focusing on the pesticide with very low toxicity so that you do not pollute the environment or pose any hazard to humans. Like I told you in the introductory part, that integrated pest management does not exclude the use of pesticides, but that the overall goal of IPM is to reduce the environmental and health risks of pesticides within social and economic constraints. In IPM, pesticides should be used only when needed, based on careful assessment of the risks that is posed by specific pest densities and the potential for control of those pests by naturally occurring beneficial organisms or other factors in the environment. For instance, if you can manipulate the environment to make it unconducive for the pest, it's an option. If you must use pesticide, then you need to select your pesticide effectively. The pesticide to be applied should be as specific as possible for the target pest and shall have the least side effects on humans, non-target organisms, and the environment. In IPM, we encourage the use of microbial pesticides. Microbial pesticides that are microorganisms in nature, like bacteria, fungi, nematodes, they can be used. And some of those, a major bacterium that is used in controlling insect pests is Bacillus thuringiensis. It's usually abbreviated as BT. Then Bovaria is a fungus which is found in the soil. Even the Bacillus thuringiensis is found in the soil. So they are, they've been formulated into microbial pesticides. And because of their specific nature, they do not have effect on non-target organisms. And they don't have effect on human beings because the biology of the humans and that of the insects are not the same. Now, whatever pesticide you've chosen to use, it should be such that it can protect honeybees and other beneficial insects within the environment. So in IPM, you reduce pesticide usage. And one of the disadvantages of pesticide, overuse of pesticides is hazard to humans, hazard to the environment, and then development of resistance. The pest can develop resistance so that when you apply the pesticide on the pest, it will not have any effect on it. It will not be effective in controlling it. So the pest is said to have developed resistance to the pesticide. I'll be talking about a few ways in which you can manage pesticide resistance. Pesticide resistance is a set of methods designed to extend the number of generations that a given pest population can be controlled economically with a given technology. It is basically an effort to slow or prevent the development of resistance. And many of the tactics of IPM are also effective pesticide resistance management, where you are using things like crop rotation, zero tillage, and many other cultural practices, use of resistant crop varieties, biological agents. So a good IPM is a good pesticide resistance management method. In integrated pest management, record keeping and monitoring is very, very important. So the pest control log is a record keeping tool which is used to monitor and track pest control activities in a facility or in a premises. You have your farm and you have deployed different methods of controlling the pests. You need to keep record of the pest population, the pest identity, and then the control methods that you have used. This record keeping documents the inspections, the treatments, and the preventive measures that have been taken to manage and prevent the pest infestations. So the pest control log plays a critical role in ensuring a clean, hygienic, and pest-free environment, especially in industries such as food service, healthcare, and hospitals. So these are the important aspect of record keeping in pest management. We have what is called purposeful documentation, where you maintain comprehensive records of pest control activities to track progress and trends. It is only when you are documenting your control methods that you'll be able to know whether a particular method that you use is effective or not. Then treatment details, record specifics of each treatment, including the date, the location, the pest that you targeted, and then the chemical you used. So when was the control carried out? Where was it done? What was the pest that you controlled? And what chemical did you use? Then, of course, the pesticide usage. You need to keep records of the pesticide names, the quantities of pesticide you applied, what method did you use in applying it, and then what safety precautions were followed in the application. Then monitoring results. Document monitoring efforts, noting pest sightings, population levels, and any changes observed are very important. So you need to monitor all this and keep them. Then coming to the action plan. What action have you taken, have you employed to prevent the pest, to manage it, or even to eradicate it if it's possible? And then you need to communicate, maybe if you are doing it for somebody, you need to communicate with him. If it is in your own farm, you need to keep records of every communication, every activity that you carried out in the field. Now, there are certain regulations that you have to comply with. For instance, every state or every country is supposed to have certain regulatory standards for the application of any control method. So whatever control measure you are using, it must be in compliance with the standards or the rules that are prevailing within the country. For instance, in Nigeria, you don't use pesticides that are not registered with the regulatory body. And there are specific rules in using them. So as integrated pest manager, you need to comply with all regulations that are found within the environment. In everything you do in pest management, you should be safety conscious. When you are using pesticides, you must use them in a safe way. Do not apply pesticides when you don't have a protective equipment, a face mask, goggles, overall jacket, hand gloves, and a nose mask, and then a long trouser and rain boots. You need all these when you are applying pesticide to control any pest. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very, very, very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Please, can you put our hands together for Prof? Let's clap our hands together for Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. We are happy to learn from you. Prof has talked about so very many aspects. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very, very much, Prof. All right, so while Prof was speaking, I do hope we were taking down notes. So I had already seen some questions. While Prof was speaking. So I'm going to go straight ahead to reading the questions. But if I listened, not if I had listened, I remember very well one of Prof closing statement was that you have to dress well to apply pesticides. Yeah, the goggles, the nose masks, coverall, the rain boots. Thank you very much, Prof, for teaching us that and very, 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 very many more. Okay, Prof, please. We have some questions that we are going to ask.
Yeah.
So the first question I saw in the chat box was, how can integrated pest management practices be tailored to ensure both effective pest control and compliance with stringent food safety standards in large-scale food production facilities? How can integrated pest management practices, how can this pest management, that is IPM, how can
Yes.
IPM practices be tailored to ensure both effective pest control and compliance with stringent food safety standards in large-scale food production facilities?
Okay, you want me to respond to this?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Remember, we've talked about prevention. When you have a large scale food industry, first of all, the sanitation of your premises is very, very important because most of the pests, they thrive where there is poor sanitation. And so the first thing to do is to keep your environment neat. You remember we talked about sanitation and then barriers. Your premises should be such that there is a fence, and the fence, you don't use just ordinary barbed wire. You can use the barbed wire along with wire mesh. The wire mesh will prevent rodents and even reptiles from getting into your premises. And then if you have a reason to use pesticides, then you should use the pesticides that are highly specific with low toxicity. When we talk of specific, they are specific to a particular pest. Remember, I was talking about microbial pesticides that are of bacteria origin or fungi origin. By the way, I'm mentioning bacteria. Somebody is beginning to think, bacteria are harmful. Why do you want them applied on food? It's not all bacteria that are harmful. In fact, we have more than 70% of the bacteria that are beneficial to man than the ones that are harmful. So you can use these less toxic pesticides to maintain the cleanliness and the safety of your produce without allowing pests to get in. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Prof. Thank you very much. That question was asked by Juliet Ngozi Nkwaize. So I believe she's around and she has listened to the answer given by Prof. Okay, Prof, we have another question by Daniel Nkanta. He says, having said about IPM, which is less cost? Is it the study and application of IPM or direct pesticide usage? Why and why not? Having talked about IPM, which one is less costly? Is it the study and application of IPM or direct pesticide usage? Then why and why not? That's asked by Daniel Nkanta.
Okay. When you are talking of cost, Of course, the application of IPM, although it will take a longer time, but it is less costly. But here, it is not just about cost, but it's about safety. Remember, we said that IPM, the target is to bring the pest to a population that is less harmful, and then to preserve, to reduce the risk on humans, and then preserve the quality of the environment. So on a final analysis, it is cheaper to apply IPM, but you get an immediate result when you apply pesticides. However, the toxicity, the hazard that pesticides come along with is quite unbearable. Now, a lot of them are toxic, and especially when they are not applied correctly. So that would be a problem. So it is less costly to apply IPM than to use pesticide, but most importantly, it is safer to use IPM than pesticide. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Prof. It's less costly and it's more safer. Okay, so Muhammad asked, how can pest attack be forecast? How can pest attack be forecast? How can we forecast a pest attack?
Okay. Climate change is partly responsible for the increase in the temperature that you have around most parts of the tropical world. And insects, which are the major pests of agricultural crops, their population increases under warm temperatures, warm climates. So it is very conducive for them to increase in their population. So when you discover, you realize that there is an increase in the temperature, there's a change in the temperature that favors the increase in the population of the pest, then you now have it at the back of your mind that there's likely going to be a pest outbreak because the conditions are so favorable around, So once you notice an increase in temperature and an increase in relative humidity of the environment, these are characteristics, these are climatic factors that favor the increase in pest population. And you know that when pest population increases, then you are going to have a pest outbreak. So that's how you can forecast the possibility of a pest outbreak.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was a very brilliant answer. That was a very brilliant answer, Prof. Okay, Prof. Daniel Kanta once again have another question. He says, when we mention pesticide, how can farmers identify pesticide that are of high dangerous contents in the market, irrespective of its activeness to combat pests? How can farmers, when we talk about pesticide, how can farmers identify pesticides that are of high dangerous content in the markets, irrespective of its activeness, its ability to combat pests?
Okay. The Institute for Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University, organizes free training for pesticide vendors around Zaria and other parts of Kaduna State. So what we do is, the reason why we train them freely is the farmers are closer to them. They go to them to buy the pesticides from them. And we think that if we impart knowledge on the vendors, this knowledge will now cascade down to the farmers. So the vendors are given training on the basic characteristics of the different types of pesticides. And so when a farmer goes to the pesticide vendor to ask for, he wants to buy a pesticide, the vendor asks him certain questions that will guide him in the choice of the pesticide to use. However, if you have a literate farmer, the toxicity of the pesticide is usually indicated on the pesticide label, whether they are highly toxic or moderately toxic. And one of the ways you can identify that is colors on the label. There's usually a small triangle, and that triangle will have, if you see the color in the triangle painted red, it means that that pesticide is extremely toxic. If the color is yellow, it means it's moderately toxic. If it is green, it means it is less toxic. There are also warning signs you find on the pesticide label. You can find a human skull with crossbones on the label. That means that pesticide is extremely toxic and therefore should not be handled anyhow. So all these trainings are given to the pesticide vendors around to be able to assist farmers. So these are ways farmers can identify the level of toxicity of the pesticide. Of course, they may not be very precise and exact, but at least they can give an idea of the safety of a particular product. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. You know, when we were little kids and when our parents sent us to go buy anything from the store, they always draw our ear to check the expiry dates. So the same way, when we are going to buy pesticide, the labels can help us to know the toxicity contents of it. Thank you very much, Prof. Please, I want to believe that those that are raising their hands actually have questions to ask. So please, if your hand is up and you don't have a question, I will please request you take the hand down. Okay, so we are going to go on to another question because our time is already fast spent. So Mohammed once again has another question that says, is IPM only applicable to food storage or also include food production? And how could this be achieved effectively in open and large field? Is IPM only applicable to food storage or also include food production? And how could this be achieved effectively in open and large field?
IPM is applicable in field crop production and in storage. In the field, one of the IPM strategies is crop rotation, where you rotate between the crop you planted this year and the one you plant the following year. That's an IPM strategy. So it can be applied on such a large scale. And you can also plant resistant crop varieties. There are certain crop varieties that are resistant to certain pests. So when you use them, that is an IPM method. So they are quite applicable in the field and even in large scale agriculture. And of course, they are also applicable in storage, just like we have said. Thank you.
Prof. All right, Prof. So another question. For a man into production, how can they implement IP to achieve better yield? A layman into production, how can they implement IPM to achieve?
Okay. Whether a layman or an enlightened man, the first stage in field production is field sanitation. You clear your field. And if there are crop residues, you burn them. So these are cultural practices everywhere that you can practice to reduce the residual pests that must have been there from the previous harvest. So field sanitation is very, very important. Clear the field, burn the residue, the refuse, and then select your seed effectively. The seed you are planting, ensure that you dress them when the seeds are dressed, it's like an insurance or a prophylactic that has been like a vaccination that has been given to the seed, so that when the seed germinates, the first 1 month is well protected, just like a developing fetus in the womb of a woman given vaccination during antenatal. Is the pregnant woman that is given the vaccination, but it is actually targeted at the child. So your seeds should be well dressed, and then you do your land preparation adequately, and then you plant. Then the seed that you have talked about, resistant crop varieties. So if the seed that you are planting has some level of resistance, all these culminate to form a good IPM package for your crop, and you will have a very good yield if you manage your field very well. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Prof. Okay, our time is fast spent. We are going to give an opportunity to those who are raising their hands up before we could go back to the chat box to ask questions. So please, when you unmute, you are going to tell us your name and where you are calling from before you go ahead to ask your question. So I'm going to start with Usman Mohammed. So Usman Mohammed, please, you unmute, tell us your name and where you are calling from. Thank you. Hello, Usman, are you with us? Okay, while we wait for Usman to come around, Olawuni, please, you can go ahead. Olawuni, please, you can unmute, tell us your name and where you're calling from before you proceed to ask the question. All right. While we wait for both of them, we are going to call on Kehinde Idowu. Kehinde Idowu, please, you can unmute, tell us where you're calling from, and then proceed to ask Prof your question.
Yeah, I'm Kehinde Idowu. I'm calling from Lagos.
All right.
Ogba in Lagos State. My first question is that, Prof, you have done a good job, but is there any test kit, any simple test kit that we can have across the among the farmers or even the market to test for pesticide residue in farm products and food products before it gets to the consumers? Is there any test kit, simple test kit that farmers can use or extension officers can use to test for pesticide residue? Number two, where can we get these organic pesticides? They're not so common in the market. Is there any major dealer that you can refer us to get these organic pesticides? Thank you. Idowu calling from Lagos.
Okay, Mr. Idowu, thank you so much. There is no field kit for testing pesticide residue available in Nigeria for now. You have to take the samples to a laboratory where the residue analysis will be carried out. But there is none for field use that I know now in Nigeria. Organic pesticides, they are available in most shops. I don't want to talk about specific names so that I'm not seen as promoting a particular product, but I know that maybe you can have my contact and send me a WhatsApp message or an email on any of my email addresses so that we can give you specific names of the active ingredients of those organic or microbial pesticides. That's what I can say now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very, very much, Prof. All right, so we're going to go over to Isaac Ekoja. Heidi Ekoja, please, you unmute, tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then you proceed with the question. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Prof. and everyone. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm very, very delighted to be part of this teaching this evening, especially this very topic. I want to appreciate Prof for the justice he has done so far to the topic, but I want to ask, most of the emphasis we have received in the teaching is more of pests. We have not talked more on diseases. We have a problem, a case with fungus disease, especially when those of us that are into vegetable production like tomato and pepper. Whenever there is high rainfall, you are faced with this problem. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't know which other method that one can adopt in controlling those fungus disease, if not the use of some of this chemical. Prof, can you suggest a solution? Or is there any other solution? Can we also introduce integrated pest management in such cases? Another question I want to ask is about storage pests, especially something like this bean weevil. I'm aware that there is a chemical they use in controlling it for your beans to stay long, like phosphocin, which people always say that it used to have effect. Is there any other solution also if you are doing storage of beans in a large quantity? Please, I will be glad if I can have some answer to this. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Generally, tomato and pepper in the rainy season, because of the high rainfall, you are bound to have a fungal attack. But there are some tomato varieties, especially varieties released by there's this Thailand company called East West. It's in Nigeria. They have varieties of tomato that are tolerant. They do well during the rain. One other thing, apart from using a tolerant variety, is staking your tomato. Staking. You know, when your tomato, the fruits are formed and they are in contact with the soil, moist soil for that matter, obviously there is going to be a high incidence of fungal attack. So you stake your tomato and make sure you put sticks in between so that as it is growing, you put some twines or ropes that it will use to grow and remain suspended without lying down on the ground to get in contact with soil. That is, these are two of the principal ways by which you can alleviate rottenness of tomato during the rainy season. Using tolerant varieties that can withstand high level of moisture, and then staking of the tomato. You use ropes as it is growing, it is moving around the rope. So you stake it so that it does not, the leaves and the fruits don't get in contact with the soil. Then for storage of cowpea or any storage produce for that matter, of course, we try discouraging the use of insecticides for storage of cowpea or any grains. Unless if it is already heavily infested, the only way is to knock the pest out using a chemical. But airtight storage is very, very effective. Yes, I heard you talking about large scale. There is this, what is called triple bagging. You use double bags, transparent leather inside, and then you put the woven sack outside. The woven sack is strong and it can withstand pressure, but it is porous. It has some holes that air can enter. But the transparent leather, which is a little bit, is not very strong, but if it is inserted inside the woven sack and you now fill in your grains, because there is no oxygen, there's no air, even if you packed your cowpea with insects, they will die because there is no oxygen within. So you can store as large a quantity as you want to within those double backing. You know, there is this high density polythene material leather that is sold in the market, which you can use and put it inside the woven sack and before you fill in your grains. And when you've done that, make sure you tie the opening very tightly so that air does not enter. By so doing, you can store your cowpea effectively without having to use chemicals. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Okay, let me say this in advance. Of time constraints, I must apologize that we may not be able to take all the questions today, but we have Prof's contacts and Prof's mail here. So please, you could mail him the question or you could still call Prof and discuss the questions, but let's still make progress. So please, I'm going to call on Daniel Paul to unmute, introduce himself, where he's calling from, and then proceed to ask the question.
Okay, so please, before Daniel Paul comes on, please, Prof, we have a question. Let's also look at our YouTube participants. They are also sending in their questions so that we don't leave them out. So there is a question that came in from YouTube. It says, Prof, sir, what is the relationship between safe soil management practice and integrated pest management for food safety?
Okay, they are all one and the same. The other one is talking about the safety of the soil to maintain soil health by not introducing a lot of toxic materials into the soil. Because if the soil remains healthy, it will be able to produce and sustain healthy crops. In the same way, integrated pest management is to ensure the safety of the crop that is being produced on the soil. So soil safety deals with the soil and its health for sustainable crop production, while integrated pest management deals with the management of pests on our crops to have them in a wholesome manner that they are safe for our consumption. And then our environment is also protected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. And thank you very much, sir, for cutting in and helping us to also ask questions from YouTube. Okay, please, Daniel Paul, you can proceed.
Okay, good evening, Prof, and greetings to all the amiable colleagues on the platform. Okay, so thank you very much, Prof, for the swift and very comprehensive lecture on IPM that you have presented to us. So my question is very quick and straight to the point. Okay, Prof, so you said something concerning record keeping on pest management. So my question is, if you can maybe share or explain more on the formats, right? Or is there a standard recording format, a standard way or method or recording format of pest management?
I talked about the steps involved in pest management. First of all, you need to identify, carry out a kind of survey to be sure whether the pest is there or not. And if you have discovered that the pest is there, you need to identify it correctly. So in record keeping, during your survey, the initial survey, you put record of how many pest species, different types of insects did you find on your field the first time you went out for the survey. Then you make an attempt to identify these different pests into their different groups. So you keep records of that, which one is predominant and which one is doing more damage. And therefore, you'll be able to classify them into major and minor pests. So you do that. And then you have seen that, yes, there are some major pests on your field that are doing damage. You now need to establish what is the extent of the damage that these different insects are causing. You are also keeping record of all those. And then you now decide, you have now discovered that, yes, if you don't control them, they are going to cause a serious havoc. So you have decided that you are going to embark on a control. What type of control are you embarking on? There are several methods. So you need to, if you have decided on a particular method, you need to record that one. And then how you are going to apply it, what time is it that you are applying? And then you go into evaluation. You want to evaluate and see, assess, was this control method I carried out, I administered, was it effective? If it was, what and what aided the effectiveness? If it was not effective, why is it that it was not effective? So these are records that you keep, starting from the first step in your implementation of the IPM. So that's the format that you use as you go along.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Point is taken.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very, very much, Prof. We are going to begin to wind up for today's session. But before we go, we're going to allow one more person ask a question, and that's going to be Arut Efretwai. But before she unmutes, after she asks her questions, we are going to give an opportunity for us to thank Prof, mention our names, where we are calling from, and thank Prof. Before okay, we are sorry about that. Arut, please, you can go on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prof, for very insightful lecture. My question is, I don't know, I apologize in advance if the question has been asked before because I joined in late, but I want to find out, in the case of storage pest for beans, we treat the beans that we buy from the market with a lot of chemicals. Do you know any way, any trick to reduce the chemical content in the beans before cooking it? Is there anything you can say concerning that? How can we treat it? How can we reduce the chemical content before we cook it and eat it? Since sometimes, or many times, it's unavoidable. Thank you.
Okay. Any beans you buy anywhere, if you are not the one that stored it, it means you don't know how it was stored. So it is strongly advised that you sun dry it for 1 or 2 hours. Most of the storage pesticides they are gaseous in nature. So when you sun dry them, the residual gas will normally evaporate under the sun. So that is one thing I strongly advise people to do. Now, if sometimes like July, August, you go to the market to buy cowpea, and that beans is exceptionally clean, I advise you don't buy that for consumption, because it's most likely that they must have used some serious pesticides to store it, unless if you know the person that stored it and the method that he used in storing it. Otherwise, they are most likely to be containing highly toxic chemicals. But if you are buying it for planting as seed, you go ahead and buy and plant. But if it's for consumption, please try to avoid exceptionally clean beans around the month of July and August. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you very, very, very much, Prof. Let's put our hands together for Prof. Thank you very, very much, Prof. Thank everyone for coming out for today's lecture. So please, we are going to call on names now. So you could just raise your hand if you want to speak and thank Prof. I'm going to give few minutes to some people to speak and thank Prof. You call, you tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then you say your words of thanks to Prof. All right, I'm going to start with Musab Ibrahim. Musab Ibrahim, please. Okay, if Musab Ibrahim is not okay, Musab Ibrahim.
Hello.
Yes, please, your name, where you're
Hello.
calling from, and your words of thanks to Prof.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir.
Hello. My name is Musab Ibrahim. I'm calling from Yobe State. Really, good evening, Prof. Really, we appreciate this very wonderful lecture. And then we are dealing Yobe State is part of the place they are producing large grains in Nigeria. So definitely, I'm very, very much grateful to Mr. Prof because he gave us how we can store our distance uh, without causing any problem to people. You know, we are dealing with the grains spoils. So these integrated pest and disease management is really, really helping, will help us. And then we are going to continue sensitize over it so that our people will at least manage their crop without their storage grains without causing any problem or endangering life. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Well done, sir.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Musa Ibrahim. Thank you very, very much, Prof. Before I call on the next person, let me announce once again that the CEO has graciously approved today as an attendance-free day. And that is because of today is Children's Day. So let's put our hands together for the CEO, Mr. Daniel Black. I tell you, thank you very, very much for that. So today is an attendance-free day. So I'm going to call on Mary Atapa to unmute, tell us where she's calling from, and say her words of thanks to Prof. before we call on the program's director for announcements. Mary Atapa, please.
Good evening, all. My name is Mary Atakwa said. I'm calling from Solace Farm Lab in Ogun State. I really ask because IPM is what we practice here also at Solace Farm Lab, where we use biopesticides. We use the molasses, trichoderma, and then we apply all of this to our protected supplies. I really appreciate.
All right. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Thank you, the participants. Thank you, the CEO for GSAI initiative. I'm very, very, very happy. Thank you, Prof, once again for graciously approving to come speak to us today. We are very, very happy and we have learned a lot. We are grateful, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Right about now, I'm going to call on Mr. Victor Obai, the programs manager, to give us announcements.
All right, so thank you very much once again. Prof, we are really grateful for this session, for sparing that time in your numerous schedules to come here and impact the participants and the farmers in our midst. We say thank you. We are grateful for this. And then participants again, just for you to know, Prof is doing this without any form of payment. So yes, this is Prof saying this is my way of doing my community service to the participants and farmers around Nigeria. So again, let's see your digital hands. For those of you who we are not able to come up to appreciate Prof, let's just see it in the comment section and your digital hands too. Thank you. Prof, we are really grateful. And of course, Prof is coming again on Saturday for the second session. Yeah, so prepare yourself for an excellent session once more. Thank you very much, Prof. We are grateful.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yes, sir. So, beloved participants, thank you once more for staying tuned to this very time and hour. The announcement is as usual. Thanks to the management team of GSAI. Today is Children's Day, and then the attendance today will be given evenly distributed to everyone. So everyone has attendance being ticked today. And then the second one is, again, your certificate as usual. Remember that your certificate is presently at the cost of 5,000 Naira. From now to the 27th of June, which is the last day of the lectures. After that, you are going to pay more than that amount, which is the initial 20,000 for the certificate. So, and remember, it's also a voluntary. If you want the certificate, you can as well pay to the company's account number. And then we also have our farm tour. For those of you who are following our social media, please do well to do so. You will see more details about our farm tour that will be coming up, so that you can as well, if you are willing, you can join the participants that will be joining us to go on a farm tour, so that we experience hands-on what we are being taught in class here. Also, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Go ahead, sir. I can hear you, sir. We can hear you.
Excellent. Sorry, a call just wanted to cut me off. All right. So, to all those participants who have been reaching out that they don't have, I think their ID or something, please we'll speak to the technical team to see if there is anything they can do about that. But I'm surprised that up to now, over a month after now, and we're still having issues with those who are saying they don't have their ID. And I can still see on the comment section people asking for attendance, which means it obviously means that you are just joining the class. So there is no how you can be asking us for attendance at this point, while the announcement has also stated clearly that attendance for today is free. So without much ado, I believe those are the information for today. If there is anything, I believe we'll reach out to you via the group chat. Ladies and gentlemen, want to really appreciate all of you for being with us all through today. And remember that the materials, that's the lecture notes that was used by Prof is free and will be dropped in the group chat also. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to appreciate you all. And remember, you need to stay with us all through this time, because attendance will be used, especially when we want to sponsor our step-down training for those who will be given support to do a step-down training in their various communities. So please, you need to understand that the attendance, and also just like Mr. Black spoke in some couple of weeks, those who have engaged so much well on our social medias, will be given more attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a very big thank you, and I'm glad that today we are going to close in time. And to our moderator, Mr. McDaniel, thank you for a good session also.
Thank
So,
you
ladies
very
and
much.
gentlemen,